If a team spends around 3 hours a week in conflict, how much do you think that costs a company at the end of the year? I know, flashback to word problems in middle school, right? You don't have to pull out your calculators because I'm going to give you an answer. CPP Global reported that companies lose about $359 billion a year to problems stemming from conflict. So think about things like turnover, absenteeism, loss of productivity, or even legal issues. Now, I know it sounds a little exaggerated, but just think back to a conflict you may have had in a professional capacity. Maybe someone was a little too eager to point out an error you made, or maybe they took a long time to answer you, or maybe even ghosted you. Or maybe they were just passive-aggressive in their response, or copied everybody in an email. As your stomach tightened and your heart beat a little bit faster, what happened next? How did you feel? And more importantly, how did that translate into how you behaved? Okay? So it's very important to think about how we react. And another study by Sherm showed that even what we considered low-grade conflict can sap the energy and engagement out of a team. 25% of those surveyed said that when that kind of thing happens, a perceived snub or a little bit of incivility, that their work effort just tanks. And it's very interesting because companies usually plan for many different things. For example, they will budget for systems and strategies. They'll invest in hiring consultants or measuring milestones. But when the pressure is on, how do people communicate? I was working with a leader, and she was telling me about something that had happened with one of her team members. She said, it started with feedback that kind of went sideways and then turned into outright insubordination and an escalation to HR. Eventually, the team member was switched to another area, but just think about what that broken relationship did to productivity, to timelines, to morale. Nobody budgets for that, but it shows up in the costs. Now, I've seen many, many different teams that are really capable, but they may be slowed down by all of these knots that nobody intended to create, and yet nobody knew how to solve either. So I dedicated a lifetime to develop some frameworks to help leaders to be able to face those moments of conflict, to be able to navigate those difficult conversations and deal with feedback without putting trust in jeopardy and being able to maintain that goodwill going. Because let's face it, most people don't wake up in the morning thinking, let me see how I can create the most amount of conflict today by being a real jerk. I know you might think of somebody, but that's not the way it works. Usually people try their best, but they may just need a little bit of help navigating those tough moments in order to keep that communication flowing. That's all. And most teams don't usually fail due to strategy. They usually just get stuck in those complex moments that just need a little untangling. I'm Maria Garaitonandia, and I help teams and leaders untangle communication knots so that they can get things done.